What was the scariest moment of your life?
I know what it is. I know you know what it is.
What is it?
For me, it was when you came home from your doctor's appointment and said that you had cancer. I'm guessing that was for you.
That was probably the scariest thing that I've gone through. Yeah, that was pretty scary.
Yeah.
How old were you?
Well, I was 37. It just happened a couple of months ago.
He knows he was 37 because it happened on his
Oh,
birthday.
that's right. Did you know that?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, it was on his
Yeah, I
birthday,
just
you got it.
turned 37, so
Wow.
we were coming home. It was funny. Now that it's over, it's funny. But I went into this doctor appointment because I'd been having some symptoms, and I didn't think anything would come from this doctor's appointment. And I was coming home, and we were gonna do the birthday cake thing and the presents, and but then he totally told me I had bladder cancer in this interview or in this doctor's appointment, and so we did not celebrate my birthday that night. We waited a few days, but it was terrifying. So
Yeah, I wasn't at the appointment just because, like I said, we didn't think it was that big of an appointment. So when he came home, I was actually had my coat on. I was ready to go out because we had just bought a van. I was ready to go pick it up, and he was like, "Hey, I need you to stay home." I'm like, "No, I'm already heading out. Like, I'll see you when you get back." He's like, "No, stay home." And I was like, "Okay." So I took off my coat, took off my shoes, and we went upstairs and told me. And then we had the next scariest thing was telling our kids. And he's like, "We got to tell our kids." So we came right downstairs and called everyone together and had that awful conversation with them.
Mm-hmm. Now the scariest thing for me was I knew that I'd had that cancer had been growing in me for a year and a half, and her uncle had died of cancer after having the symptoms for less than a year. And the doctor had told him, "Hey, if you had come to me when you started your symptoms, we would have saved your life." But by the time he had waited, longer than a year or close to a year, and it had already gotten into his bones, and I couldn't save him. So when I knew that it had been growing in me for a year and a half, I did not feel very hopeful that I would survive. Like, it was really like, it's sad to me now to look back to say, like, really in my mind I was thinking, okay, best case scenario, like, just please let me live like a couple of more years so that my 2-year-old will remember who I am. But that's really what was in my mind, but before we knew anything about my prognosis.
When was the first time that you felt peace after that moment?
For me, it came faster probably than you, but so I've heard a lot. So the first initial day was really tough. I mean, there was no holding back. I mean, it was just a lot of tears. I couldn't even function that day. But we decided originally to wait to tell anybody about the cancer diagnosis until we had his prognosis. But quickly I determined, like, we need to tell people, like, I need support. I need to tell my family. We need to tell our friends. So we did, and I think right after that is when I started feeling peace. Like, I've always heard people use the phrase, like, "Oh, I could feel your prayers." And I think in my mind, I was always like, "Oh, I get, like, kind of what you're saying. Like, you're grateful that people are praying for you and you recognize that." But I didn't think it was possible to physically feel some prayers. But I did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was weird. Like, I actually physically, tangibly felt people praying for us. And I kept thinking even the next couple days, when people would find out and, they would obviously be so concerned. And in my mind, I'm like, I should be sadder than I am right now. Or I should be more scared than I am. But I wasn't. And it was such a weird feeling. I'm like, I can actually feel people praying for me. I've never felt that or understood that phrase people would say until I went through this. We're like, wow, it is amazing how I can feel it. Like, I can actually feel it's actually making a difference. Like, I should be a wreck, but I can function. And I actually have this weird peace, and I don't know where it's coming from other than we just had hundreds and hundreds of people praying for us.
I totally second that. I totally gained a testimony that, when people do pray for you, it does make a difference.
Yeah.
And I gained a super strong testimony of the prayer role at the temple. Like, so I definitely have upped my game since then in praying for others, because since I had experienced it myself, I'm like, dude, I am going to like focus my prayers on somebody else each night. Try to think of somebody that I can pray for, because I do have faith that it will help them. So it was something that I'd learned.
Right, or even like comment like on Facebook, other people like, oh, yeah, we'll pray for you, we'll keep you in our prayers. Like I legitimately, like at night, try to remember, okay, who have I said that to? Like I want to make sure I'm actually praying for those people, because sometimes you feel like it's a cop-out comment, like, oh yeah, we'll think of it, we'll be praying, we'll keep you in our prayers, but to that person, it actually means a lot. Like it actually can make a big difference. And I guess I didn't realize prior to this what a big difference it could make to actually pray for someone and to pray with the intensity they felt like people were praying for us.
Yeah, so that was like such a good question, like, when did you first feel peace? If there's ever a reason to like not leave the church, it's the time that you think that you're gonna die, It's like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't like abandon my faith and like leave the church. Because when we brought our kids in, like, I will say, like, I had varying degrees of peace. Now I should be fair and say this experience didn't last very long, because like 3 days later I found out I wasn't gonna die, like the cancer didn't spread, I was treatable. But there was that period where I didn't think, if I was a betting man, I would have thought I was somewhat terminal, I would have a shortened time. But when we brought our kids in, like the Spirit was super strong when we told them about the experience. And the ultimate message was like, you know what, guys, we get in here and we talk, frequently about, hey, you know what, how can we try to be like Christ? We're trying to be like Christ. And I was just like, the thought that came to me was like, hey, you know what, now is our time to stop talking about it, and we actually get the opportunity to do it. Because, one of the things we learned about the life of Jesus Christ was when he really did have to go through some tough things, and some stuff that he didn't want to go through, and was just told his Father, he said, you know what, I don't want to do this, but I'll do it anyway. And it was just kind of like, can we do that same thing right now? Can we do that? And it's always like still a fear of mine that I will go through a bigger trial that will make me bitter and that I won't be grateful. But like there was always like this spirit of gratitude, and that can't come unless you are living the gospel, or at least striving to. People that don't have the gospel in their lives do not have the ability to be grateful through something that we went through. And that's something that I just learned, that you can be super sad and super scared, but super grateful at the same time. Those things can coexist. So like there was immediate peace there because the Spirit was so strong, but man, in the middle of the night, I woke up in like these night terrors. And so like it would go and come, but like peace was possible, but that doesn't mean that this was like easy. I still had my low moments. So
yeah, and so did our kids. Like, yeah, that conversation when we first came, I mean, he came on, I remember you said, like, I'm so pumped up that we get to prove to the Lord what we always say. Like,
I don't remember that. But if
like,
I did, then that makes me cool, but I don't remember.
Right, okay.
I don't remember feeling like that.
We can do this. Like, we always, let's just not talk the talk. Like, we get to prove to the Lord we're just not all talk, that we're going to do it. But each kid definitely handled it a different way. I don't think all the kids felt peace in the same way. You know what?
If I did say that, I don't think I felt that. I think I was trying to fire up the kids to be like not worry about it. That surprises me that I did say that, because I don't remember feeling that day. But
let's do this.
Yeah, I must have been lying to our kids that day.
But I feel like we also we had been. I think the Lord had prepared us the past little while for this.
Yeah.
I mean, even just the Monday before or 2 months before, Lance taught the family reunion lesson, and he read the story about this boy who got cancer, and was it a video we watched? But
no, it was a story.
That's right, you read it, and you're like, hey, listen, if I were to get cancer, or any of you, this is how I want us to act. Like, I want us to be able to say what this boy said. And I remember.
This is what he said in the moment. This story was in the Deseret News, and I was really touched by his story. He found out that he was terminal in the doctor's appointment where he brought his family, and he said, hey, I have some bad news. Your cancer is not curable. And he'd been fighting it with chemo for a couple of years, but it never worked. And it was in the appointment where he found out that it didn't work and that he was going to die. The doctor said, hey, you've only got a few months to live. And this kid, I think he was like 19 years old or something. He had such strong faith, and he just looked, he's like, man, I don't like it, but you know, whatever. If my story can help someone else, then let's do it. Rock, and he said, rock on.
That's right. So that's
and then the Deseret News was like, rock on. And I did that, and I thought, and that was just such a powerful statement to me that said in my heart, it said, you know what? It kind of like when the scriptures ask prophets a question, like the Spirit does that with me sometimes. It's like, so as I was thinking about this, it's like, you know what, Lance, does God love you? And I'm like, yeah, I really believe that he does. And then the Spirit like says again, okay, so if he does, then you're going to be okay, and your family's going to be okay. In my language, it would be, then rock on, it's okay, like, it won't be dark forever. Even if you die, I mean, your kids will eventually, the sun will come up for them, and it will be okay, because I love you and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, so that lesson, when he taught that, he's like, so I want that to be our family motto. If I were to get cancer, or any of you get cancer, like, our motto would be rock on, we got this. And then just like a week and a half later,
it was pretty soon,
really
right after that.
I was like, okay, I'm like, well, I'm glad we had just talked about this and decided, okay, rock on, we got this.
You know what? That's also a testimony for having family gospel discussions and studying the gospel, because you can't tell me that doesn't strengthen us.
Right.
Like, had I not been doing that, then I maybe I wouldn't have been able to be grateful through this experience. That's a testimony that if there's blessings that come from consistency, and there's great strength in the teachings that we get. So it really strengthened us. So you could essentially say gospel discussions in the home strengthened us, and were the way that we were able to get through it,
Yeah, so that experience, and then, like, I even had personal experiences not too far before that. Like, about 6 months ago, because every night I prayed that my family would be safe. I mostly pray that Lance will be safe. And I remember it was probably beginning of last summer that I was saying my prayers, and I was like, oh, please pray for Lance, help, him to be safe, hope nothing happened to him. And the Spirit in my prayers told me, I remember feeling like, hey, don't pray that he'll be okay. Pray that you'll be okay. Or you guys will be okay, whatever happens. Pray that you'll get through if anything happens. And I remember in my prayer being like, okay. So I changed, like, well, please help if anything happens to Lance, that we'll be okay. And so the past 6 or 7 months, that's how I've been saying my prayers at night. I'm like, help us if we do have a trial, if something happens to our family, that we'll be able to get through it. Mm-hmm. And when this happened, I remember immediately thinking about that and thinking, oh my goodness, like, the Lord has been preparing me for this, not asking that nothing happens to Lance, but that we will be able to make it through. And I was like, wow, that's such a tender mercy that I feel like all these little things the Lord didn't just, it felt like a bomb went off. It felt like just in the middle of nowhere, we stepped on a landmine and he had cancer. But when I stopped to think about it, I'm like, you know what? This didn't come out of nowhere. The Lord has been giving us all these little tender mercies to help us be okay. Even something as small as something as temporal as we had just changed his life insurance plan to something more suitable to what we needed just recently. And I'm like, all these little things, not that we needed it, but I felt like the Lord was saying, hey, I know this is a shock, but remember, I got you. Like, I knew this was coming, and I wanted to ease the blow just a little bit for you guys. And that really made me feel like, he's more of a father that's looking out for his daughter that knows is going to freak out about something. He's kind of softening the blow a bit for her, and that was a tender mercy for me.